Hello everyone! So in doing research for an upcoming video, I actually realized that I had never read the original issue of Transformers from 1984. For as many of the comics that I have read, and for as much of the media as I've taken in over the years, the original comic book, which is the start of what a lot of people find to be the definitive fiction for G1, I never really got around to reading because I kind of assumed that it was just the same old thing. I assume it's just kind of the same origin story, You know, planet Cybertron is depleted. They escape to find energy sources. Everyone crashes on Earth. War starts up again in 1984. And for the most part, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But what I failed to miss out, what I've been missing out on all these years is the hilarity of how weird it is compared to everything else. Because in many ways, this came before the cartoon. Because you're talking about Bob Budiansky and the Marvel team that originally created the character concepts for Transformers, the actual names and personas, and here's where they got to imply them. Here's where they got to apply them, and it's weird because it wasn't all done. And this was before the animation models came out, so they actually knew like what they were supposed to be drawing. So it's if you've never looked into it, it's interesting, and I'm going to point a few out here in the video. Now, because I am doing something on published work, I'm going to keep my visual elements to a very bare minimum. We're just going to kind of talk about the book itself and just the oddities of it rather than like going through it page by page. I'm not Linkara, for instance. And it's going to start with the very first shot of Transformers we ever see in the comic book. And you can see all of your favorites. Almost Optimus Prime. Almost Sunstreaker. Almost G2 Leadfoot. How did he get in here? I think that's the one that threw me off the most. I can kind of understand, borrowing color schemes from other characters. You've got a character in here that's also borrowing Hound's color scheme, by the way. I think what made me laugh is the fact that there's just this rando right here on the left side with this, Mirage-esque helmet thing going on. And it does vaguely look like G2 Leadfoot. Now, it's borrowing what would actually be Bumblebee's color scheme that we'll see later in the book. And you can see another one in the back that's kind of got Trail Breakers color scheme. It's really just loose generics with the color schemes that they already had applied. So it comes across very, very odd. There's just this dude, this guy, walking around Cybertron who just looks like Optimus Prime's old uncle. That he just wandering around, dodging Decepticon lasers as he is mistaken for his nephew. It amuses me. It amuses me. And this is the first look at actual Transformers in the comic book. You know, Given that, I'm kind of surprised that there aren't other like weird things in here that like haven't gotten toys or any kind of representation or homage yet. So one of the things in this book that's going to be apparent is they weren't finished with the designs yet. Eventually, the animation models are going to become the default designs that Hasbro is going to tell Marvel and everyone, this is what the Transformers look like. Always depict them like this. At the time, all they had to work with were the toys and the concept models. So when I show you that Megatron has a very different head than we are used to, understand that originally he did have a different noggin. Originally he had uh, a different helmet design. You can see it in the very first Transformers cartoon or commercial. I mean, look it up. And in the animation there, Megatron does look very different with the dark head and with this more rounded helmet look. That was what they were originally going for. Now they changed it to something more akin to what he looks like in the toy, that famous bucket head we know now. This actually became the model for the Shattered Glass Megatron. So if it looks at all familiar, it is because they have actually used this head. Also, according to the fact that Ravage is there, and the fact that that's definitely Soundwave behind him, that's Soundwave to his right, who is colored in dark blue and red. that gets worse, actually. So here's one of our first shots of, this is them like making the plan to leave the planet. What's funny about the shot for me is, number one, we're looking at an Autobot elder in the background who has never really shown up since. I was trying to think, is it just like the wrong character model for someone like current? Is this like Mirage giving a report or something, or Jazz? No, like I've been looking this guy over many, many times. He just looks like, he either looks like an Autobot with a very long beard, like a wizard beard, or he has like super bushy mustache look, like one or the other. Like that's where like my visuals are going with his design. Or it could be like a very grumpy looking, like a super long frown kind of thing. And when your planet's dying, you probably would be a little bit grumpy. So again, a character we've never seen since, even though this is someone that Optimus Prime was taking advice from. And weird choice. The second thing about the panel that makes me laugh, you probably noticed already, we have this gold colored Prowl who is just straight up the toy. He just has the back of a Datsun. They haven't seen Earth yet, but the back of a Datsun is stuck on this Transformer's legs. No explanation, no reason why. It just so coincidentally happens to look like a Fair Lady Z. No idea. It's weird to me that they had so many generics before, and there's a generic in this panel, but for that one, they just literally just drew the back of a toy. Weird choices, man. Weird choices. They are really good at reusing elements. So when they get to the Ark, and we're getting to like the crash and everyone getting rebuilt in 1984, you can tell that all the maintenance bots in this shot, the gold one and in the gray one in the back, it's the maintenance bot, it's the maintenance device from Optimus Prime's trailer. So that element got reused for something, and like that's something that you see like once upon a time in the original cartoon. In the comic book, it's actually a pretty important piece. And if this is the repair unit that is on board the Ark that repaired all the Transformers, it actually makes a lot of sense that Prime would haul one around with him, doesn't it? Like that actually, like, instead of imagining this as them just reusing an element of the toy to have the right visual, which it is, it absolutely is. But you think of it in universe, these are the repair drones that the Autobots use. So the leader of the Autobots hauling one around to do repairs whenever needed is actually kind of a cool choice, I think. So yeah, it's actually it creates some interesting logic to it. Now this event takes place very differently in the comic book. Instead of like the original G1 episode, for some reason Teletran 1 repaired all of the Decepticons, but not the Autobots. Or more correctly, out of all of the Transformers that it repaired Skywarp first. And then Skywarp started dragging all the other Decepticons into the repair beam. Here, the Ark went about repairing literally everybody. Autobot, Decepticon, all at the same time, so everyone recovered at the same time. And Megatron's, there's no like Starscream like blasting the ship one last time and accidentally knocking Prime into the repair bay. No, the Decepticons just leave because they're still weak, they're outnumbered, and a logical retreat makes sense. So it gets weird though. In between the part where Megatron decides we need to get out because we're outgunned and we're underpowered, so we need time to recover before we get into a scrape. But between then and when they actually do escape, there's a roll call. And we get this page. It's more dialogue now than page. Literally everyone introducing themselves by using their name in the third person and describing their special abilities, so you can tell why each one is an individual, like cool warrior. This is the most forced thing I've ever seen in a comic book page. It's such a ham-fisted way of introducing all of the Transformers at the same time. And this is just the Decepticon side of it. Like, there's not even that many on the panel. And it's like, literally, this is almost the entire page. Pay attention. Again, coloring is an interesting beast in this book. So you see Starscream in the middle, but it looks more like Ramjet to you, because, you know, those are technically Ramjet's colors. The red pylons are the only thing, the red intakes around the shoulders, those are the only things that give Starscream away in that shot. Yeah, he's colored mostly in gray in this one. So it's important to remember that comic book printing was pretty limited back then. It wasn't great at certain colors, so a lot of times, especially to save some budget, they kind of trimmed it down and simplified color schemes. You know, blues and purples all kind of became the same shade of gray, for instance, you know? So visually it's not the best, and it comes with a lot of like really weird color choices going on. And here we also have Soundwave in maroon. Now, he actually carries that color scheme for quite a bit in the Marvel comics, to the point where I am still one of those championing a Soundwave coming out in the maroon color scheme, because it's so known for that. So, you think this is bad? The Autobots had pages like this too, and there's a lot more Autobots than Decepticons to start this book off with, so their dialogue page is double. They had 2 pages to get everybody announced and introduced. But theirs had even more hilarity to it. So we see Ironhide, as well as Ratchet, as it were, has the toy accurate design with the flat head behind the screen and the repair slash battle unit. I'm kind of glad that didn't last very long, because that would have been really hard to make battle scenes out of. You'll also note that Bumblebee is not only almost as big as Sunstreaker here, but also features his toy head, because they had not finished that one yet either. I also kind of like how like the shading is really bad on Huffer, so he looks like he's trying to pull a Batman with just like the glowing eyes in the shadow. More color weirdness here. So there is one shot where Soundwave's kind of in the shadows, and he actually seems to appear in like his normal blue color scheme. But this is my favorite one, because it is Soundwave colored as Megatron. For those keeping track, this is the 4th color scheme for Soundwave in this book. Remember I said they couldn't keep the color scheme straight? I'm not sure how they accomplished that. And hey, for as many different color schemes as Soundwave has featured in this book, FunPub used none of them. That's the biggest surprise to me. Like, a Soundwave colored like G1 Megatron, colored in maroon? Why didn't they ever jump on that, of all things? So that's just like the weirdness of the book that I wanted to point out. It is largely very much like episode 1 of the Transformers. You see the Autobots venturing out into the world, discovering a little bit of Earth culture, and finding out the life forms of the planet. You have a generic Decepticon battle. The big twist at the end is Bumblebee got into a wreck and he is dying at the end of the book. So that puts him in the care of not Spike, but Buster, who was the main human in the comic books, rather than Spike Witwicky that we more traditionally know. So beyond that, it is largely the same story, but man, the limitations of the comic book, both in just how much time you have and how many characters they had to debut it all at the same time, makes it kind of ridiculous. It's in retrospect, it's a hard read, because you're going through so much expository dialogue that has to ham-fist all of these different explanations and characters at your face. It's a rough read going back, and really, like I said, it's largely the same story. You're not really missing out on any like nuances or little details. The only thing they really slip in that's any different is Megatron's announcing one of our mightiest warriors is missing. That'd be Shockwave. And if you know the Marvel Comics, Shockwave showing up is not the best news for Autobot or Decepticon. But we're going to leave it there, just in case you never really looked into the original comic book. It's a bizarre trip. It's a bizarre trip. And yeah, for all you customizers out there, lots of inspiration. So thank you guys for watching. And like I said, a little bit from what I learned from these books is going into another video that I've been putting a lot of attention into. So hopefully that is coming up soon. And I hope you enjoy it when it is. Until then, I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.